Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 13 of the Giro d'Italia 2024, brought to you by Bicycle, the largest global marketplace for pre-owned bikes. With over 20,000 high-quality pre-owned and refurbished bikes available, Bicycle connects the buyers and sellers to make the process of buying and selling bikes safe, easy, and convenient. Sellers, remember to use the code ButterflyEffect24 for 0% seller fee. Now let's get into today's stage, because at about 180 kilometers, we'll call it 110 miles in length, it's pan flat. It's one for the sprinters. There's no doubt about it. We're going to see a breakaway go up the road. Three riders up there. That's Pietro Bone from Polti Cometa, Manuel Tarozzi there from Bardiani, and his teammate Tonelli. Those three riders, they're going to get about a 3-minute gap. But it's not getting any bigger than that, because we got three teams back there chasing. Pseudo Quickstep's on the front, Trek's on the front, Alpecin de Koenig's on the front, because they all got the best sprinters here at the Giro d'Italia. So they're going to keep these three breakaway riders in check throughout the whole day. Now it's a little bit windy out there. Not crazy windy. You can see some trees moving around and stuff like that, but it's not big time wind. We're going to get in about 90 kilometers to go. We're going to see Hannah Walker. She's the Eurosport commentator there live on the site, and she's interviewing Pseudo Quickstep's De Wolf. De Wolf's holding up the wind gauge up there, and he's holding it up to figure out what the wind's like. Well, guys, you don't need a gauge. If you're a professional bike rider of any kind of quality and you're racing over at the European Peloton, you know what the wind's going to look like. Okay, all you got to do is look at the picture right here and look at Hannah Walker's hair. It's blowing around a little bit, but every time it blows up, it drops back down to her shoulders. And if your hair is that long and it's dropping back down to your shoulders, there's not enough wind to split the professional Peloton permanently. Is there enough to cause some chaos and a little bit of dangerous riding? There absolutely is. But permanently, can it split? I don't think it can split. I'm pretty calm, and I'm making my breakfast burrito while I'm listening to the commentators, occasionally glancing over my shoulder looking at the race. Then we start getting into about 73 kilometers to go. Well, this is where we see Geraint Thomas start getting on the radio at the front of the Peloton there, because the Peloton started getting nervous around 90 kilometers to go, where they're going a little more curb to curb, because the time gap's always at about a minute and a half, 1 minute lead up to the three riders in front. Now we'll look at about 72 kilometers to go. That's Johnny Milan back there that's sitting there at the back of the Peloton as they're starting to come into this right turn. I don't know what he's doing back there, but he's hanging out. We're going to find out later, and I'll let you guys know after the race is finished. But at this moment, we see three Trek guys up front, kind of split up, but not at the front. They're just a little bit back, third row, fourth row, fifth row back there. Then Johnny Milan's back there, and he's got some company back there with 2 or 3 teammates wrapped around him. And I saw Juan Lopez at the front, but then later I saw him at the back. All right, we can start coming in a little bit further. We see it's Valentin Parapente carrying a bunch of bottles. He's got 7, 8 bottles wrapped inside his jersey and everything. He's coming up, dropping them off to his teammates. Then we hit about 60, 62 kilometers to go. We come out of a right turn, and bam! Ineos go to the front. They're throwing down big time on the front, trying to split this Peloton up. If you're listening to Eurosport, it's Sean Kelly calling it live, and it's Rob Hatch calling it live, and they're lighting things up. They're getting all excited. It's been a kind of a boring sleeper stage all the way up to the 60-kilometer mark. Then we see Filippo Ganna on the front. He's going crazy. I text my boy Garrett, who's recording the show for me, and I said nothing's going to happen here. It's going to come back together, because Ineos are a big-time knucklehead. Guys, when you go back to that video and you see Hannah Walker there, and like I said, her hair drops onto her shoulders, there's not enough wind. Now there's left turns, there's right turns, and there's panic, and the Peloton splits in half. But when we start looking at the second half, who missed a move? Well, we got some GC guys back there, because Fortunato missed the split, and Einar Rubio from Movistar missed the split, so that's 2 teams. But more importantly, it's today's big-time favorite here to win the stage. It's Johnny Milan. He's missed. So he's got his teammates back there, but they haven't gotten quite organized yet. And we see Johnny Milan, he's at the front, he's pulling hard, then he comes flying off the front there, and he's got a gap. Johnny is panicking all over the place. Johnny, you don't need to panic, man. You just need to get your team back together, because you already saw Fortunato back there. He's 7th on GC. He's got teammates around him that he can pull out of the front group and teammates in this back group. And Einar Rubio missed a split too. That's 3 teams. It's 60 kilometers to go. And Hannah Walker's hair has not flown off her shoulders yet permanently, so you know it's going to come back together. But Johnny Walker's throwing in everything as he's trying to close the gap solo. You're a knucklehead up here, there's no doubt about it. Never break the #1 rule on the butterfly effect. And that #1 rule should be enforced right here, because Johnny Milan, your teammates are back there and they're not done and dead and dusted yet, but you're panicking and wasting a bunch of bullets up here trying to close the gap. He can't quite close the gap as the row's going left and right. Sean Kelly's like, this is the perfect time to do a tactic like this with all these left and right turns. Sean Kelly, Crosswinds only work when the wind is coming across from you. Once you start going right, lefts again throughout the course, and you're going through towns and you got the trees in the way, it's not going to work. There's too many guys up there. And throughout my whole professional career, I don't remember one moment, Sean Kelly, where I was racing, we were in somewhat kind of crosswinds like we see here, where Hannah Walker's hair wasn't actually leaving her shoulders for very long. So not one point in time throughout my 25 years of racing have I seen a quality field like something here at the European Peloton, where it is split with 60 kilometers to go when the hair can't even leave the shoulders. But Sean Kelly's getting excited, Rob Hatch is getting excited, and they're explaining it to me while I'm cooking my burrito, which is upsetting me because I need to not burn my tortilla or burn my eggs. And every time they get excited, I got to turn around and look and see if something's happening. Something was happening with Johnny, but that's because he's a knucklehead. Now it's going to take about 20 kilometers before everything comes back together. It's 40 kilometers to go. Everything's back together except for the third group back there. When we see that group, it's Pozzo Vivo back there. It's Juan Pedro Lopez from Lidl Trek. He's been at the back of the peloton. And we'll also see UAE team members, Mikkel Björk. Why did I bring up Mikkel Björk? Well, later the peloton gets nervous and starts going curb to curb. We see two riders break away. That's Marcelucci up there and DePorter from Intermarché. These two riders are tacking up the road, but they're no threat. They're holding about 20 seconds, 25 max on the peloton. Then we're going to go back there and we're going to look at UAE team members, Mikkel Björk. Well, Mikkel Björk's going to start to get pushed over to the left side of the curb there, and then he's going to come up and whack his shoulder there against Max Schachmann from Bora Hansgrohe. This was ridiculous and uncalled for. One tiny little tap on the hip there with your hand as you're coming up. Mikkel Björk, next time, just touch him on the hip there. Max Schachmann's a good guy. I've never seen Max Schachmann doing anything bad in the professional peloton. Just tap him on the hip. He'll know you're there. He'll move out of the way. He's not trying to cut you off or crash you. But when you bump him that hard, when you pass him on the left side in the gutter and he's not expecting it, if he crashes, your teammates crash behind him and maybe you crash yourself too. So Mikkel Björk, you're an absolute knucklehead right here for this move. But the peloton's still curb to curb all together. We got the two riders up the front. We're getting into 20 kilometers to go. There's a crash in the back. It's Ewan Costu there from Arkea Samsic that goes down. He's the one guy that's been riding fantastic throughout this Giro d'Italia, and like I said, throughout the 2024 season and earlier episodes here of the Butterfly Effect. But when we look at the other rider, that's Filippo Ganna that's held up there. He's going to sit up right here, and he's going to ride in because he's got the individual time trial tomorrow. That's why Filippo Ganna and Team Ineos were knucklehead for driving it through the crosswind sections. They had nothing to gain from that. Even when they were driving it in the crosswind section, they still had Pogacar there. They still had Bahrain victorious riders there, Tibieri. And of course, they still had Danny Martinez in there and Ben O'Connor. There was no benefit to dragging this group of GC favorites up the road just because 7th on GC and Einar Rubio back there were dropped. It just didn't make any sense when Filippo Ganna has the individual time trial tomorrow and he's going full gas. We even see him sit up after this crash with 20 kilometers to go. Now we go up to the front of the peloton, curb to curb, all the main GC favorites at the front, UAE Team Emirates and Ineos, of course. Bora Hansgrohe is up there from time to time. We saw Bahrain victorious up there, and it's all nervous since the time it got caught with 40 kilometers to go all the way in, and we're coming into about 10 kilometers to go, and they're going to catch the last of the breakaway riders here. This is DePorter from Intermarché. As he gets wrapped up, same scenario, curb to curb. The peloton's really nervous. We get into 5 kilometers, 5.2 kilometers to go. We see it's UAE team members, Mikkel Björk, that's over on the left side, and then we see Ineos on the right, one of the Swift brothers there, I believe one of the Swifties. They're not brothers, but they're on the right side. And then the action really starts at just under 5 kilometers to go because the finish of this stage 13 is technical twisty, and it all begins here at about 4.9 kilometers. That's why we see Mikkel Björk sprinting full gas, and we see Ineos sprinting full gas on the right side. They're coming in the first technical section after 5 kilometers to go. We see this little chicane coming into, and we see Ineos win the battle. Now they're going to hold on to the front here of the peloton for quite a while as they're doing a great job of keeping Geraint Thomas, who's sitting behind his teammate in front that's leading the peloton here at the Giro d'Italia. We're coming into about 2.5 kilometers to go. We're going to see Lidl Trek start moving up there as they're getting up behind or next to the side there of UAE Team Emirates as Lidl Trek's coming up the side with Johnny Milan, and they got a host of riders of about 5 guys there counting Johnny Milan. Front guy there's going to be Dan Knoll. Now we're coming into 2.3 kilometers to go. There's a right turn here. Julian Alaphilippe comes flying up the inside. He's got the lead here of the professional peloton on stage 13 of the Giro d'Italia. As they exit this right turn, we see pseudo quick steps on the front, but I only see 3, maybe 4 guys up there. It's not enough at this moment. And we start looking back and we see that's Dan Uhl. He's sitting about 4th, 5th position. Dan Uhl knows that his teammates aren't on his wheel. So Dan Uhl pulls out, looks back over his shoulder, sees his teammates are back there. Those guys are the guys he wants to be with. So he drops back there. He picks up Stuyvens, gets Stuyvens on his wheel, has Ed Toons on his wheel, has Simone Consoni on his wheel. And guess who's the next rider on the next wheel? Well, that's Johnny Milan. Dan Uhl starts throwing in a big effort, brings him all the way up to the front of the peloton here, and he's coming up just down the center of the road as we see Pseudo Quick Steps on the right side of the road, and he's racing against Joseph Cherney there from Pseudo Quick Step. As we see Dan Uhl start to blow, Jake Olula's coming flying up the left side there, but there's only 3 of them because they don't have their sprinter, Caleb Ewan. They do have Luka Mezgits up there sitting 3rd wheel, but they need Caleb Ewan, and he's sitting about 45th position. Now, as Jaco is coming up, let's take a look at the spot there of Pogacar, because Pogacar's in what he calls his bubble. This is every time the journalist keeps asking him, why are you at the front for these finishing stages? And I always tell you, he has to be at the front in case there's a split. But he talks about having the bubble. Take a look at the bubble that the Slovenians made around him. This, with just that little bit of space, gives him enough room to be able to move left, right, hit the brakes, or get out of the danger way, and he's got a split second to make that decision. But right now, except for Johnny Milan, Tadej Pogacar is the only guy that's seeing everything so clear because his fitness is just that good. Now, Dan Uhl blows, Jake Olula takes over the front, and they got 3 guys up there. But remember, they don't have their sprinter, Caleb Ewan. With Jake Olula going full gas, we're going to come into about 1.3 kilometers ago, and this is when we're going to see Little Trek take over the front with Stuyvens. Stuyvens comes bowling across the right side there of the Jayco team as he's coming up the right side. Johnny Milan gets pinched off, so he's got to go to the left. We got 3 Trek guys coming past Jayco Lula on the front, and then Johnny Milan coming around the left side there of the Jayco train. He's going to meet up, and he's going to get on the Luka Mezgits wheel. So up front, we got Trek now taking over. We're coming into 1.1 kilometer to go. It's time for Johnny Milan to get up on his train, so he starts moving up past Max Walscheid there to get up onto his teammate Simone Consoni's wheel. Max Walscheid slides back behind him, and now Walscheid's got Luka Mezgits on his wheel. Again, Caleb Ewan's nowhere near to be seen because he's back there in about 40th position with some of the other sprinters who are losing out here on stage 13 of the Giro. Now we're coming under 1 kilometer to go. We see up front, Stuyvens is still up there driving. He's going to go all the way into about 750 meters to go. As he's pulling off, Movistar's coming up the left side there. That's Chimolai, my old teammate from Lamprey. And he's leading out Gaviria there, the Colombian. As he's leading them, bringing them all the way up to the front, he's going to start to blow just after we saw Stuyvens blow. Now Chimolai's getting out of the way, but up front, Ed Toons is going full gas at under 700 meters to go. He's leading out, and he's got Simone Consoni, the last lead-out man for Johnny Milan. Johnny Milan's sitting 3rd, and they're coming into the last couple bends here because it's going to straighten out with about 400 meters to go. Before it straightens out, though, we're going to see some action in the back as we start seeing the peloton coming wider and wider. We're coming into 400 meters to go. Up front, Ed Toons is done. He blows. Now, Simone Consoni goes to work. He starts a huge acceleration on the front with 400 meters to go. But at 350, Gaviria's flying up around the outside there on the left side of the lead-out train here of Johnny Milan and of Simone Consoni. As we back the film up just a hair, who's there on the back wheel of Gaviria? Well, we look at that's Rui Oliveira, and Rui Oliveira doesn't have his sprinter, Milano, who's stuck in the back too. But when we look behind Rui Oliveira, look over to the right side there. Well, that's the Cofidis rider there, Annie Lokowski. As he's coming out from the right side to the left, he's locked on the Rui Oliveira's wheel, but has to pinch his way out and give a little bump there to Tim Van Dijk from Lisa Bike. Now, Gaviria's going full gas. He passes Simone Consoni, but as he does, he came all the way around the outside, and we see that Luka Mezgits actually pinched off, or held up, not quite pinched off, but held up there Rui Oliveira. So now Gaviria's coming solo, and it allows Johnny Milan to leave his sprint out leader there, Simone Consoni, and latch on the Movistar rider there, Gaviria. Gaviria's hitting the front. We got under 300 meters to go. He's going full gas, but Johnny Milan's on his wheel. Behind him, we see Rui Oliveira, and then Annie Lokowski there from Cofidis. As they're coming into the 200 meters to go, Johnny Milan hits out hard. 150 meters to go, they're even. 100 meters to go, Johnny Milan's got stage 13 won as he celebrates crossing the line with 3 fingers up in the air because this is his 3rd victory here at the Giro d'Italia. Second on the stage is going to go to Annie Lokowski back there from Cofidis, and third's Phil Bauerhaus. Now when we look at the picture from the back, we see some of the favorites. Caden Groves was in a bad spot, lost a bunch of sprint points here. Tim Miller was in the bad spot, and when we flip the camera around looking forward, Tim Miller looks dejected there in the picture as he's way outside the podium here on stage 13. Afterwards, Gregory Rask, my old teammate that helped me win the Vuelta a España in 2013, he was absolutely stellar in 2013, and I remember him on the Andorra stage where he was money on that stage and saved me multiple times to bring me back to the front group. Now he's the director sportif here of Lidl Trek. And he says in his interview that he told the guys to be prepared with 60 kilometers to go for crosswinds, but they had to take a nature break. So that's why Johnny Milan, Simone Consoni, and a few of his other teammates like Dan Uhl were back there in the back of the peloton when it split. But Gregory Rask also said there was no panic in the group. That's not true, Gregory Rask. Johnny Milan was panicking big time and was trying to close the gap when he should have been staying with his teammates. But all in all, Lidl Trek were happy at the end of this race as we see Johnny Milan hugging all his teammates and having a good time celebrating his 3rd victory here at the Giro d'Italia for an amazing result where honestly, when you look at the end of the stage, nobody touched Lidl Trek. They had a perfect lead out. Dan Uhl at 2.3, 2.5 kilometers to go. You were money to drop out of the front. Look at for your teammates. Go back and pick them up. And then Stojevens, your lead out from 1.3 all the way into 750 meters to go. Ed Toons after that. Money all the way into the line. Simone Consoni keeping everything steady, going all the way up until Gaviria threw in the attack. And Johnny Milan had an armchair ride into the finish with the kind of power he was putting to the pedals to take another fine victory here. Congratulations. Enjoy your victories here at the Giro d'Italia. Nothing but the tip of the hat here from the Butterfly Effect's Chris Horner. And I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.